You can love him or you can hate him, but at the end of the day, you know the name of Stephen A. Smith, and that's what he cares about. He is controversial, he is polarizing, but through it all, he is marketable. And in a world today where so much of our media consumption is through social media, in a world today where the country of the United States, which of course houses the NBA, is so often divided with people just not seeing eye to eye. In that world, Stephen A. Smith is perfect for that, to be a voice of sports journalism, because he gets reactions. So whether you love him or hate him, Stephen A. Smith was made for this. Let's talk about it. Now, first of all, here, I want to establish what Stephen A. Smith is. Now, in my mind, I do consider him a little bit less of a journalist or analyst and more so of a personality, a character. You see, he has paid his dues in the industry for a long time. I'm not going to discredit his work whatsoever in regards to the field of journalism. But it's his presentation that leads me to really believe this. You see, Stephen A., he can make good points at times. He can have good insights. But the most important thing of all is he's going to make sure that you hear it, whether it's correct or not. He's going to break the boundaries of journalism and have public quarrels with players like LeBron James. It is simply what he does. And so, with that in mind, when I think about Stephen A. Smith, yes, there have been times, especially throughout his entire career, where he has had good points, where he has analyzed the game to a good extent. But overall, when I look at Stephen A. Smith, I think of him less as this composed, analytical minded journalist, and more so a big time personality, a larger than life character on screen. One that, whether you agree with him or think that it's ludicrous, you pay attention because you want to hear what this guy has to say. He's going to make it entertaining, he's going to make it charismatic, and that's what he does first. And now that we've established who Stephen A. Smith is as a sports journalist, one that leans more so into the personality side of things, this big time talking head, as opposed to the data driven statistics guy. And that's okay. There's a spot for that. Sometimes you simply want to be entertained. At the end of the day, for most people, athletic competition is largely an entertainment medium. And there are not many guys, whether it's hate watching or truly enjoying watching him, that are more entertaining than Stephen A. But now that we've established what he is, I think it's time we take a look at the climate of America and the climate of media consumption today in order to determine why, in my opinion, this guy is really perfect for modern day sports media. I'm going to start off here by talking about social media. And we live in a world today that is so much a case of not only what have you done for me lately, what have you done for me within the last 5 seconds? You keep scrolling on Instagram Reels or TikTok, and you're just looking for something to grab your attention. You're killing time, trying to find something that entertains you. And in turn, a lot of people, they will try to maximize their personality by being loud, by being brash, in order to immediately grab your attention so that you keep watching. And then, as more and more people keep watching, because of that attention grabbing early sequence, the social media algorithm notices that, and that video starts popping up to more and more people. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what the person was saying, the validity of their claims. What matters is you paid attention and you watched because you were interested by what they did in the beginning, because they did something to just immediately grab your attention. For just a brief moment, you found something that entertained you. And so let's consider now, what's going to be more attention grabbing? Is it going to be this slower, very well thought out, very carefully worded debate over the value of a particular player? Or is it going to be Stephen A. Smith yelling about Bronny James? Now, you might like the rich depth of that first example, but that's something that more so you kind of sit down and watch. You sit down and listen to because it makes you want to think about it yourself. Me personally, that's the kind of stuff that I love the most. But ultimately, if I am just scrolling through reels or something and I only have a few minutes, that's not necessarily going to grab the same attention as a clip of Stephen A. Smith being loud, being very, very strongly opinionated. That's going to not only grab my interest, it's going to get a reaction out of me. And it might even be a negative reaction, but say it is. And then you go to the comment section, or you share that video with someone else to say that you disagree with what he's saying. That's still an interaction, and that's still going to get boosted in the algorithm. Whether you liked it or not, you interacted with it, so now it's going to get pushed out to even more people. It not only caught your eye, but it also got a reaction out of you. And that's what Stephen A. Smith does. So, in a world dominated by social media now, where that takes up so much of our time, I think Stephen A. is a great fit for that because of his personality. And that is a big factor in what is keeping him relevant through this new age of media. And next up, I want to talk about the United States as a whole. And there are so many nuances that go into this. But overall, I feel like our country is very much currently one of disunity and division. And that's not to say that one particular side is entirely right or one side is entirely wrong, because I think that's where the problem lies. There is nuance, there is a gray area there. It's not as simple as black and white. However, tying into the aforementioned social media, what those algorithms do is they feed you what you interact with. And let's say you were on the conservative end of this spectrum. You're going to get one of two things on your algorithm. On one hand, you're going to get a lot of conservative stuff that's going to feed your views. Or on the other hand, you're going to get some crazy stuff entirely outside of your beliefs, and you get a radicalized depiction of the other end, and that in turn makes you more radicalized because you believe the other side is going crazy. When there is a lot of gray area that is simply missed out on because, once again, much like that social media discussion about what's more interesting, it's far less interesting, far less captivating, and far less attention grabbing to someone looking for just a quick hit of dopamine to find something that makes them mad or makes them really happy than something that makes them think for a second and just ponder. And in turn, I think social media has really polarized a lot of people and made them think that the other side is simply entirely wrong and entirely immoral in some ways when there is so much more nuance to it. And there can ultimately be bad decisions on both sides. There can be pros and cons to both sides. But we are in an environment which has the ability to foster more division and more radicalization than ever before. And I think we're kind of seeing the effects of that right now in America. And with that, in the case of Stephen A., what we can see with him is, as was established earlier, he is divisive. And yeah, it gets people talking. And people more and more now are becoming divided over their thoughts and beliefs. And when you kind of get this polarization to happen in your mind and you start to not see the other side or even like hear them out for what they have to say, you simply deem it wrong because it's not from your perspective. When that happens, and that's kind of how you look at the political side of things, and you continually grow in that mindset, eventually that can seep into other areas of your life. If you won't hear our other opinions when it comes to deciding the future of the country, what's going to make you seek out other opinions when it comes to something more small, something that's simply entertainment like sports? So, with rising political and overall division, that creates an environment in which sports division can become more and more prominent. And Stephen A. Smith is very, very divisive. But that's what gets you talking. That's what gets a reaction out of you. You either really cannot stand what he has to say and you do not take his opinion seriously at all, and you share that with others, you interact with it, or you really like it, and you stand firm in your stance. But either way, you're paying attention. And with that in mind, with the current polarized climate of the United States of America today, as well as the world in which we live in being dominated by social media, Stephen A. Smith has created the perfect storm through his loud, abrasive personality and character first journalism. No matter what he does, whether you love him or you hate him, whether you agree or disagree with almost everything that he says, he gets your attention and he gets you talking. And that is the reason why he is still so relevant today, still so prominent, in spite of takes that he has gotten wrong, in spite of the controversies that he has had. You can't take him away because we still keep talking about him. As for me, I'm somewhere in the middle. I love, to an extent greater than anything else, these insightful, thought provoking debates that we can have. But at the end of the day, I can also come to respect what the man does and understand why he does it, and recognize that in the world that we live in today of sports media, Stephen A. Smith, the ever polarizing figure, was made for this.